Welcome, everyone, to season 6 of The Breakthrough Show. It's been a minute since we've seen you, but we're slowly gathering the remainder of our guests for the Breakthroughs Around the World series. Conversations with 40 guests from 40 different countries, acknowledging our similarities, honoring our differences, and celebrating our connection. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, the creator of the Breakthrough Show Network. I'm so excited to welcome a special guest for this episode who I actually met from one of our previous breakthroughs around the world guests, Dhirendra, who was here to represent India. She's currently a student in Michigan here in the United States studying her PhD in chemistry. However, she's here to represent her native country of Lebanon. So here to represent Lebanon is Rana Massoud. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Rana. It's so good to have you here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Nice to meet you again, Jessica. Nice to be on the show. Thank you for giving me this chance.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you on today because we did have a conversation prior to this, everyone, but I was having to hold myself back because the truth is that I don't know a whole lot about Lebanon. So I'm excited to virtually travel there with you today and our audience. But I mentioned that you're here in the US right now studying for your PhD as well. Tell us right off the bat, how different is it here in the United States compared to Lebanon?
Oh my God. It's so different in so many ways.
Mm.
And I've traveled before, but this is the first time that I settled in a country out of Lebanon. And it is so different in so many ways, socially in specific. This is the thing that affected me directly, but also education is totally different. It definitely USA definitely trains people to be strong individuals, just on their own, and this is, I think, something important here. And whenever I talk about the country, I'm like, everyone has to do that at least once, to come and settle in a foreign country like the US and be able to make their own path. Because you can be yourself here freely, and this is something very important.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that so much. And I think that it's a perfect place for you to be in that. I know how much you want to change the world by the things that you want to do. So we're going to get into a little bit of your story coming up. But speaking of Lebanon, I would love for you to tell us some of your absolutely favorite things that you love about your country.
Oh, Lebanon is my forever love. It's I think, to me, it's my favorite country in the Middle East, and I'm not sure if because I'm from there, but I really love it. What I love about Lebanon is the nature there. You get to have a lot of greenery, and you have the beaches, and you have the mountains and the slopes. So, and it's also a tiny country. So this is nice about it. You could be like, especially in the spring, skiing on the slopes like 2,000 meters above sea, and then 2 hours away you could be on the beach, enjoying your day, the sun and the heat. So this is something I like about it. I like the language also. Arabic is really a fascinating language, very poetic and deep in so many ways. The hospitality of the people there also is something very special about Lebanon. If I want to talk about everything, I wouldn't stop. But these are like the most beautiful things that I love about it.
Yeah, I love that. And you and I were talking about when we talked initially about how close it is to Egypt and Israel, like in that area as well. Is it easy to travel to those places, or how difficult is that with the state of the world as we're in right now?
Yeah, unfortunately, There are so Lebanon is surrounded by Syria from north and the east, and Palestine or Israel from the south, and then the west borders are all like the Mediterranean. So unfortunately, it's like the politics there. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of freedom of travel to Israel.
Mm,
To Turkey and Egypt, it's totally open and
mm,
free, but also in Syria because of the struggles there also and the revolution and all. It's not very safe to go there, I
mm,
would say. But that's so unfortunate. But
yeah.
there's not a lot of freedom around that area. But it's easy to go to Turkey. It's like 1 hour, 30 minutes flight. Egypt also, and those are also magnificent countries to
Yeah.
visit. Yeah.
I love that. It looks like, I mean, it's right on the water, Lebanon. I had to go look at a map to make sure I knew where it was, but
Was it
it's
hard to
right on the.
find?
What is the water like? Like, are there beaches, and like, is the water clear? What is it like there on the ocean?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the ocean, so it's salty water.
Mhm.
And then when you navigate from the top north, where the beaches are rocky,
Uh,
and then you get to have like the sandy beaches in the middle, and then in the south, it gets back to being rocky again. It's
yeah.
amazing. And I guess also because the top north and top south are less populated,
Mm,
the water there is like amazing. I would like to
mm,
mention Byblos in the north. The water there is amazing, and the beaches are also very very nice, the shores
yeah.
too. And in the south there is like a village or town called Nakura, and
Mm.
it's that the like the lowest south of Lebanon. It's also a magnificent city right on the beach, and the water there is amazing.
I love it. I feel like I need to go there at some point because I just moved back to my home state of Connecticut where we're on the water here, and I've missed it so much. You really don't. When you lived there, did you live close to the water, or how far were you from it?
I lived in the mountains, like in the
Mm.
center of
Oh.
Lebanon, but because it's not a big country, you could like drive 1 hour and a half or one
Mm.
hour tops and be on the beach.
Yeah.
Be yeah, that would be like Beirut, which is like the center of the coast.
Right.
But if you want to go more up north, it's more of like 2 hours, 2 hours and a half to the south too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it differs. But the nice thing about Lebanon is that you can be like all over the country, in like
Yeah.
5, 6 hours, you could be, you could visit like every single spot in it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so wild to me here because, we could say that about our states, I think, where, it takes a couple hours and you can go across the state, but the country is wild to me because it's like I can't even imagine that. That's why I think I need to go over there at some point.
Yeah,
So if
I
you
think
had
Lebanon
to
is like half a state of the US.
yeah, yeah. So if you had to choose the mountains of Lebanon or the beach of Lebanon, which one would you choose?
Oh my God, tough question. But personally, I would prefer mountains.
Yeah.
But so there's a special area in Lebanon. It's the North Lebanon. You
Mm.
can have mountains and beaches at the same time in the same
Uh,
place. So this is amazing. I would definitely choose that. But if I only had to choose one of those, I choose the mountains.
yeah,
I'm
you
more
would
of
do.
like a camper and hiker
Mm,
more than, yeah. And it can be a bit hot
mm,
around the beaches. So the mountains are cooler in so many ways.
yeah, yeah. Now, a lot of our countries that we've talked about during this series, there tends to be like one or two food dishes that people feel like really represent their country. Are there food dishes like that for you that are like, this is what Lebanon is all about?
Yeah, well, the food menu in Lebanon is so rich
Mm,
in so many kinds. But what's most famous, and I think most people know this, is grape leaves, stuffed grape leaves, and there's the
Mm.
national salad thing called tabbouleh. It's amazing. And did you try it?
I love tabbouleh. I love
Yeah.
it. Yes.
And there's of course the hummus and the shawarma and the kibbeh. I think kibbeh is something not very common.
Mm.
So I would say everyone should try that. It could
Yeah.
be raw meat or cooked meat. Yeah, it's amazing too.
Yeah, it's so it's funny because so I eat a plant-based diet, and I was asking Dhirendra when he was on, because I think they're vegetarian as well. And so I said, would it be easy for me to eat there? And they were like, yes, at our house you could eat, you could eat just fine. But I love tabbouleh and hummus and all of those things. So it sounds like I would not starve in
Oh
Lebanon.
no, no. You know, I've been vegetarian for 5 years,
Hmm.
and after coming here, I switched to actually like eating everything. I
Hmm.
blame it on the US. You know, it's
You
the US
you you
pollution.
should blame it on the US, because it's hard in a lot of places here. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's been a real challenge for us. We became plant based back in 2017,
Mhm.
and when I tried to do it myself at first, it was really hard with everybody else in the house eating whatever.
Yeah.
But now with all of us being plant based, it's like it's so much easier. And I really feel like there's so many places, restaurants and things like that, that are making a conscious effort to include something,
Yeah.
that we eat as plant-based people or vegetarians, as well. But do you see that at all in Lebanon? Do you see, like, restaurants and things like that, offering maybe more options than they used to?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I've been vegetarian for 5 years there, and I didn't struggle one day to choose what to eat or from
Mm.
like scarce options. You know, there was always a lot of options.
Yeah.
And what I like about it, there are of course like certain recipes that are made of meat, so you cannot like replace that. But there are a lot of options that support vegetarian diet. For example, stuffed grape leaves. There's already a recipe that is actually like the first thing to go to when you want to cook it or try grape leaf that is totally vegetarian.
Mm.
Hummus is also like a very nutrient rich in nutrients, and then totally vegetarian, and very other like many other foods that are made at home,
Mhm.
homemade foods, not in the restaurant, that can be done. And all the stews and everything that I've been cooking, I've realized that anything can be done without meat. You know,
Mm.
it's the spices that makes the difference, and
Yeah.
how you do things, not the meat or the chicken. So
Right.
I would say, yeah, with the Lebanese food, you can be totally independent than
Yeah.
meat and chicken. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. I would not go hungry visiting. That makes me very happy.
you'll love it. You'll love the food there.
I know that you mentioned, the ability to be an individual here in the US, um, and I know that we're going to talk a little bit about being independent and breaking outside of social norms and things like that when we get to your story. What is something maybe that you want people to know about Lebanon, or something that's maybe misunderstood?
This is a very good question. Um, when people ask me about it, about the country, and then I'm like, some social thing to ask, I guess, is like religion and things like that. And when I say that Lebanon is very rich in so many different religions
Mhm.
and religious sects, people would be very surprised, because
Mhm.
it's known of the Middle East that it's mostly dominated by like Muslim religion. But in Lebanon, and this is something very nice about the country, is the diversity that is there in a very tiny country. This can
Mhm.
be its political problem, but
Yeah.
it's social beauty actually, because you can find people from so many religions living so peacefully together. Um, Everyone is like having their own individual beliefs, even if their like parents belong to a certain religion or belief system. You can see that people are free in a way to choose who they want to believe or what they want to believe in, and this is something very nice. And this is something special about Lebanon, that it is diverse, and it's not just like it's not acclaimed, I would say, by a certain political system or a certain religious belief. This is what I like about it in a social manner.
It's so nice to hear about those things, because I'll be honest with you, that's not the picture I think I had in my head of the Middle East at all, of being really diverse, or the ability to choose, or having any sort of freedom like we're accustomed to here as well. So it's really nice to hear about that. I'm also really excited to get into a little bit of your story and share that with everyone here. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with more with Rana.
Yeah.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com. Welcome back to The Breakthrough Show. We're here with our very special guest today, Rana Massoud, representing the country of Lebanon. And I'm so excited to get into a little bit of her personal story today. I know that you are here in the U.S. studying for your PhD. And at what point, how long have you been here in the States?
Oh, I've been here exactly a year. A year and a few days. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. And how long are you going to be here for? Like, at what point will you be done? Or do you know?
Hopefully, I would say 4 more years to go, if everything went really well with the program and all. But I do plan on staying a bit longer, trying to find jobs, or so I hope it would be a longer stay.
Yeah. Do you get to go home very often, or how does that look for you?
Yeah, as like legal papers and all, it's easy to go from Lebanon, from the US. But it's a long distance, and grad school is really hard. You have to give it the best you can and to dedicate the time to it. So I'm not planning to go back this year, although every day I'm like, should I, or can I make it? And then I'm like, let's wait 1 more year and then I go back. But yeah, it's easy to go back and forth.
Yeah, I know what that's like. And I lived in the South for over a decade, and I missed being in Connecticut so badly. It was something, you can try so hard to surround yourself with those things that make you comfortable, but it's like nothing replaces just being there on the ground.
Right, 100%.
But I'm glad you're enjoying it here as well. I hope. But tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you even get into chemistry? Is that something you've always been interested in?
I've been always interested in science,
Mm,
and the first thing to go to is like studying medicine or like engineering, but the education in Lebanon can be a bit expensive.
mm.
Back in the day, now it's like less expensive, I would say. And this is one of the misfortunate things about Lebanon, that there's only one public university, which is like
Really?
free. It's 100% free. I
Mm,
would say 90% free. But it can be very, very hard. And if you want to study in a private university, it could be a bit expensive.
right.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to study medicine or any of the like expensive majors. So the second thing to go to is science, and now I'm really happy that I chose it. I'm happy in what I'm studying. But yeah, at first I wanted to try like biology, and then when I started studying, I was like, oh, chemistry is much more interesting. And to me, chemistry is like the background of anything that goes around us.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. And yeah, I was like, but medicine, is like 7 years of study. I don't think I can do that. And here I am now. It's like I've been studying for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, you have to be, I have to give you so much credit because you have to be incredibly smart. I did not listen, I didn't do well in chemistry. I even my kids, I homeschool my kids, and when they're taking their chemistry, I'm like, you're gonna have to ask someone else. I don't know what I'm calling you, Raina. From now on, I'm calling you.
Yeah, yeah, I'll give you my email and then whatever you want. But the funny thing is that I wasn't myself very good in chemistry in school. I would sometimes cry, studying for exams. But
Wow.
then in the university, it's totally different, and then
Mm,
you get to choose what you just like about it. And the more the advanced the advanced the degree is, the more special it is, and then you can just like study what things that you would just like. It's still definitely diverse, and you have to have like knowledge in different like parts of it, but there
mm,
would be like one area of specialty that you like, and then you would be ready to put effort into it.
mm.
So it's totally different than school, and I never believed that I would study this specific subject, but it turned out to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? I feel like it almost ties into your story a little bit of being independent because I tell my kids all the time who they're the same. They get wildly frustrated about the things they have to learn now, in middle school and high school. And I'm like, but once you get past that stuff you have to learn, then you get to really come into like the things that you want to do, and get to focus more on those things. Now, we do have a little bit of freedom with homeschooling in that we can do more of what they want, but still there are those, you have to know how to read and do math and like the
Yeah.
basics of things, and they are over it. They just don't want to do it at all. But tell me about what the experience has been like for you in your life of becoming more independent and maybe breaking out of what society maybe expects of you a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. My journey in this manner has been like a roller coaster.
Mm,
Every phase is different, but it took me a bit of effort to say to just like break through dependency, I would say, on others. And I would say Middle Eastern families tend to be protective
mm,
in some kind of way, and as I said, education in Lebanon is a bit expensive. So to continue my master's, I had no other choice but to work. But the jobs weren't like very well paid jobs, especially in like if you just have a bachelor in science, you don't actually have a lot of opportunities of like a good income.
mm,
And then, so I had to go out of the box to be a bit independent. And then I applied to being flight attendant. And, like being a scientist and smart, and everybody has like these impressions about you, then you have to put yourself in a specific figure and not try things that are a bit different than who you have always been. But
mm,
then being a flight attendant was one of the jobs that are like well paid, I would say, in my country. And then I applied to it without even my father knowing, because I knew that he'd be against it anyway. He'd be like, "Oh, you're gonna be like sleeping
Oh
outside
boy.
and traveling like the whole month," and I knew that he'd be against it. So I applied without him knowing. And then after being accepted into that job, I was like, "So okay, I need to register for my master's and I need to pay for that." So I'm flight attendant now. And he was like, "Really? How did you do it? What did you do?" And I'm like, "I just applied." And then it happened. And he was like, "How would you be able to handle both?" And
Yeah.
um, I managed like to
Yeah.
work it out in a way. But yeah, it wasn't easy to do that thing.
Mm,
And then I had to move to the city, and then live by myself to be closer to the airport and everything. So that was a journey. And then being a flight attendant gave me that strength of actually like traveling out alone, and being here and there at so many like different times. And then this also prepared me, I would say, to come here
mm,
and stay here for a while now, and being like totally fine with it
yeah.
between me and myself. Yeah.
What an incredible experience. I when at one point, I don't remember at what point growing up. At some point I thought being a flight attendant would be really cool. And then I'm not really a fan of flying. So that wasn't going to work out very well. But I imagine that meeting all different kinds of people through the flights, not only like you said, prepared you for moving around and things like that, but probably started to help you develop who you are as a person, even because I think as we surround ourselves with different kinds of people, it helps us go, okay, like, oh, I can relate to this, or this is how I would be different. Or did you find that for yourself as well?
Yeah, definitely. It helped me prepare to be who I am, and
Mm.
helped me prepare to be who I don't want to be.
Mm.
Because on the planes, you get to see so many different people. So,
This
you
is
know what
another,
I mean.
this could be a whole other show, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what I mean? And I don't know why people on planes act differently, I guess, than on
Yeah,
the ground.
yeah,
I don't know why, but you meet a lot of different people's different personalities, and this really, really helped me, because I grew up in a village. And in the village, everyone acts the same, or is supposed to act the same.
yeah.
There are
Mm,
like these norms and what is supposed to be done and what's not. So on the living in the city and being a flight attendant, I met a lot of people, and it helped me develop my personality in different ways. And the nice thing about it is that you never have the same boss. So the crew is always different. Who works with you is different. Who's senior is different. Who's the captain is different. So this is also something important. Whether you like your boss or not, you're not gonna have them always the same crew on the flight. So
yeah.
this developed my teamwork skills, because whatever is going on, you have to keep the flight going, and you have to make it as smooth as you can, to make it
Mm.
easy on yourself, because if it's easy on anyone else, then it's gonna be easy on you too.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine it's that same sort of mentality that's going to help you in the world of chemistry as well. Because I think with science, you have to just, there's always things changing and moving forward and advancements and things like that. So you just kind of have to keep going at some point, right?
Exactly. And then because in a job, you always have like the same team that you work with. And if you were able to work it out with so many different team members for so long, I was a flight attendant for almost 3 years.
Mm,
And if someone is able to do that, and make things smooth with this different team members, then it's easy, I guess, to work with a specific team,
mm,
because it will be easier to read people and to know, okay, how to set boundaries with this specific person, how to communicate with that person. And yeah, it definitely helped with my communication skills a lot, and my my teamwork skills, definitely, and the time management, because with that you don't have enough time to sleep, enough time to study, because I was also studying. And yeah, it definitely helped with the personality a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's amazing. How do your parents like you being over here in the South, or your family in general, or in the US?
Yeah, my family is all in Lebanon right now. I don't have anyone here in the
Mm,
US around me. um, they are like, they are very emotional, and
mm,
they tend to be very like attached to us. But the way they supported me to come here, it was like magnificent in so many ways. And you know, when someone is trying to play strong, but you know that they are soft from the inside.
yeah.
So this is how they acted. And then it took them like 2 months maybe to just like move on. And I was like, aren't you even sad that I'm not with you?
Mm, yeah.
Aren't you like, I don't know, like, why don't you cry a bit?
They've already like rented out your room.
Exactly. And they'd be
I
like, is
love
it
it.
okay to move your stuff from this closet there? And I'd be like, okay, like, what can I say? I'm not even there.
I,
They were
it's
very
so
supportive.
I know. It's so true though. Like our oldest moved out just over a year ago.
Oh,
Across he lives in Washington State now, and that's a way. I don't know. It's a couple days drive if you're gonna drive.
wow.
Because it's a long way, and it's the same thing where like I'm so torn. I'm super emotional about him not being here, but at the same time, like all your stuff's in a box. Like I love you, but you're not here.
I have tears in my eyes, but your stuff is not here anymore.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly, that's same.
I
I think
love
life
that
has
though.
to go on at a certain point, and parents will have to accept that, okay, now they
Yeah.
are away, and you can't do much about it, because it has to go on, and we have to be independent in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And no matter how emotional parents are or protective, they have to deal with this fact at a certain point. And I was the first daughter to like settle out of the country.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they were. It was really hard. It took them a while. Like my father couldn't talk to me on the phone for like the first couple of weeks, and then because every time we'd like call, he'd cry or
Oh.
something. But then, yeah, then they adapted. They adapted quickly.
Then you call and they're like, "Who are you?" I don't know.
Yeah, they were like, "Can you call us later? We're not very free right now."
We're busy. Call back later. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that they're supportive of you. And it's hard. It's tough on the parent side because I'm just coming into this now of where, my kids are not getting younger. They're growing up and they're
exactly.
choosing. So it makes me very emotional to hear your story. And I hope other parents are listening today as well, because I think even no matter how attached we are to our children, we want them to be successful and happy and doing something that they want to do, even if it's hard for us to let go. We do really love to see you be independent and be, flying, doing not literally. My children better not become flight attendants.
When you said flying, I thought of skydiving, and I'm like, my father would
Shh,
never.
no, no, we're not talking about. My children sometimes watch the show. No, it's okay. Um, no, yeah, I mean, we want our children to do really well, and so I think there's going to be a lot of parents even that are going to hear your story and maybe be able to start to let their children fly a little bit more, and also anybody that's listening as well who is going out on their own more and being more independent. We want you to be able to have the strength to do that as well. Tell everybody what you hope to do in chemistry moving forward, or even just in do you have any like things that you really want to do in the United States? Like tell us what you want to do in the future.
Yeah, this is a very good question, because what I wanted to do from the beginning is like I wasn't able to do in my country. It needs a lot of like technology and
Mm.
the opportunity to actually do it. And here there are so many chances and so many opportunities that I can actually do it. So I work in computational chemistry right now, and I one of my projects is drug discovery and design. And this is something that I've always wanted to do. So back to the medicinal field, I'm like, okay, if I wasn't able to be a doctor, let's be something that's as close as possible. Or a pharmacist. And then computational drug discovery is something very, very nice and advanced, and it's growing so fast. And we don't have that in Lebanon. And
Mm.
then here, like, you have all the opportunities that you want. And also drug discovery and design, as small as this field can be, I would not small, but I mean the name of it, it's also so diverse, and you can be working in so many ways from so many different approaches. So um, I do different things also, but I would say this is the thing that I would like to be doing also when working in industry in the future. There's like a specific department, I would say, that work just on drug discovery and drug design computationally. And this is something that I would really love to do, and I would be grateful to have an opportunity in the future to do it.
Yeah. And I know we talked initially in our first conversation about how I absolutely support you in that effort because we've talked a lot for those of our listeners who have heard some of my personal story as well about my history with medications and chronic illness and things like that. And we definitely need people in there that are going to find us options where we can help the things that we have going on and not have to trade it for a laundry list of different problems. And it's tough. It's tough, to see people have to choose between one illness or another if they choose to take the medication. And so I support you. I'm here for all the discoveries you make, and I'm gonna say I know her, and you are better because of her.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much. To be honest, like to be 100% honest, at first, like when you think of science and research, you think about like huge discoveries and huge things, but it's like in reality, it's small steps at a
Right.
time. And then it took me a while to accept that. I was like, as a scientist, you want to change the world in so many good ways, and especially in this field, medicines and diseases and illnesses, like you want to give it just your best. But then you got to know that, okay, let's like calm down now.
Yeah.
It's like just little.
This is
It's
why I'm
just
not in that because I wouldn't be able to calm down.
exactly. It took me a while, and this comes from the fact that, oh, there's no funding for this project, or there's
Right.
this and that. Research is dependent on so many things, and then it took me a while to accept the fact that, okay, it's gonna be tiny steps at a time, and this is how it goes, and this is how discoveries are made. Also, there's not a discovery that happened just like that over one
Right.
night.
Right.
And yeah, yeah.
I love that though. I really appreciate you sharing part of your story. I'm very emotional over here. We need to take a quick break. We're going to listen to Dorothy Ojay's poem in Arabic, and we'll be back to ask Reina our 10 fun questions. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
من أجل الحب سأقف، من أجل الحب سأقف، من أجل الحب رغم النفس المنكسرة، رغم القلب المثقل سأقف من أجل الحب، لأن العالم مجروح، ليس فقط بلدي الصغير حيث أعيش بسلام، حيث أعيش في اطمئنان، لكن للعالم أجمع في أي مكان وأي زمان. سأقف من أجل الحب، سأقف من أجل الحب، لأننا نحتاج المزيد من النور، لأننا نحتاج المزيد من النور. كفانا موتى، كفانا سلطة، كفانا سلطة، تفانى قنابل. سأقف من أجل الحب، سأقف من أجل الحب، حتى يعيش أطفالنا بسلام، حتى يعيش أصدقاؤنا في هناء، حتى تنفتح الحدود، حتى تنفتح الحدود. سأقف من أجل الحب، سأقف من أجل الحب، رغم النفس المنكسرة، رغم القلب المثقل. سأقف من أجل الحب، سأقف من أجل الحب، سأقف من أجل الحب.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show, Breakthroughs Around the World. We're here with Rana Massoud representing the country of Lebanon, and I am excited to get into our 10 fun questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Number 1, what is your morning beverage of choice?
Coffee.
Did that start before the United States or after
No.
you got here?
Oh, at the beginning, I used to drink yerba mate, and it's like an Argentinian tea. But then after coming here, I drank coffee more than I did in my entire life.
We are bad examples here in the United States. Okay. All right. Number 2, what time of the day or when are you most productive?
I'm most productive, I would say, in the morning after 10.
After the coffee.
After the coffee.
I love it. All right. Number 3, which season is your favorite? And I realize now in this question, it might differ depending on where you are in the world. So which season would you say?
Yeah, but it's spring. So spring in Lebanon is like 3 months. Here it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We go from hot to cold here. There's no in between.
Exactly. I'm like, where did spring go? It's like in Michigan, there's no spring. It's just 1 or 2 weeks if we're lucky.
I love it. I love it. All right. Number 4. Well, this is probably going to be redundant, but what is something you're learning right now?
Well, ahead of like educational things, I'm learning to be tolerant and patient, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It's hard
such
to
a
tolerate people that don't that don't act like us, I would say. And you have to accept and tolerate people, whoever they are and whatever they think of and act like. It's part of my daily struggle, I would say, but also my daily training as a tolerant person.
I did not expect you to say that. And it's because I think that's I think that was part of my goal, honestly, in doing this series as well, as we have all of these preconceived notions of what people from different countries or different parts of the world are like. And it's just not, most of it is just not true. And so we have to really get to know each other, and I think that that's the first step in being more tolerant, is to have conversations like this, I think.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. So going back to earlier school days, what were your best and worst subjects in school back then?
Oh, my best subject. So I was good in science, but what I loved being good at also is English and Arabic. I love languages, and I've always loved it, and I'm always working on myself to learn new languages. And what I hated was history because it didn't make sense.
I will say this, that history makes a little more sense as you get older. I definitely think, like, when you're young, you're like, what does this have to do with anything? Because I hated history growing up, and now it's like, oh, if we're not careful, we can so easily repeat things, And so I think it's one of those things that I didn't like it in school either, but it also didn't make a lot of sense to me back then either, I think.
Yeah, and if people learned history really well, they would be acting differently now,
Right.
whether like, especially politically, like it doesn't make sense now, didn't make sense back then.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Okay, number 6, what scares you?
Oh my God, Jessica, what scares me, and it's something that I cannot control, is loss and losing beloved people, because when you're far away from family, I think like it's possible, and we've all experienced death in
Right.
some kind of way. And I'm not afraid of me dying. I'm afraid of something that I love, and I cannot tolerate their loss to die, especially that I'm far away right now. So
Right.
I think of
Right.
that a lot, and I try not to, but
Yeah. I can
think of
absolutely
my
relate to that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. All right. Number 7. Have you ever been in love?
yeah.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. We leave it to the imagination here on the show.
It doesn't work out, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Number 8. What inspires you?
um what inspires me, there's a lot that inspires me, but um to say that nature in so many ways. And there was one time where there were a lot of fires in my country. It burned like half of the mountains, and no one was able to stop it until just one day it ran, and then it stopped all of the fires. And I'm like, okay, we're still too weak to actually do make a difference or make things better. We only make things worse, and then nature is always trying to fix itself.
Hmm.
This is something that inspires me every day. I'm like, I'm working on myself. I wouldn't expect anyone else to help me with that.
I love that. It's really beautiful. Okay, I know you're doing a lot of school right now, but when you have free time, how do you like to spend your downtime?
I exercise
Mm.
and I read a lot. In my field, I have to read a lot of literature and research and all, but then I read a lot of philosophy. And in my free
Mm.
time, I'm like, okay, now it's time to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read, I dance, or I exercise. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Final question. Which culture do you deeply respect and or want to learn more about other than your own?
Is it a culture? I'm not sure if it can be considered a culture, but Buddhism is a
Mm.
culture or a discipline that I've always wanted to learn, and I've read a lot about it. But to really experience it and learn it, you have to practice it. And unless you're actually disconnected from a lot of other distractions, you cannot
Yeah.
be there and practice it 100%. So maybe one day,
Yeah.
but I'm always reading about it.
I love that. I love that. Well, you made it through all 10 questions. Well done. You did great.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed getting to know you so much and learning about Lebanon because, like I said, I didn't really know a lot about it, and I think especially here in the United States, we tend to have really skewed views of the Middle East, and I'm so happy that you came here today to share your just who you are because you're such a warm and loving person, and I just really
Thank you.
appreciate you and your energy and sharing on the show today.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk about Lebanon, because I wouldn't shut up about it, and then not everybody would be like, just stop.
I love
So
it.
being on a show to talk about the country was something that I definitely needed.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Thank you
I'm
for
glad to give you that space to do that today. And I really hope that we have the opportunity while you're here in the States to meet up at some point. I think it would be a lot of fun. Be a
Sure,
lot of
I'd
fun.
love to. I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here today. We're so thankful that Raina could join us for this conversation. I want to remind you to visit thebreakthroughshownetwork.com and see all of the shows in this series, as well as the other shows. I'm your host, Jessica Jugas, and I want to remind you to make every day a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.